Switzerland may have jeopardized its access to the EU market for the sake of curbing the number of immigrants coming into the country. In fact, the new law, which will install quotas for foreign workers, goes against long-held agreements with Brussels. We're now joined live by MEPs Jo Leinen, he's in Brussels, and Paul Nuttall from Liverpool. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the programme here tonight on RT International. Paul, I go straight to you first. Experts suggest the Swiss could be gambling with their economy, which depends quite heavily on the EU market. Do you think the country can afford to sour relations with the European Union over the issue of immigration?
Look, this is a fantastic day for democracy, Rory. I mean, the Swiss have gone out, they voted, the majority have said that they want a quota system. What they want to see is their borders controlled. And I tell you what, it's a great day because finally someone is standing up to Brussels. But the question is where do the European Union go from here? I suspect they will try to force the Swiss to vote again, have another referendum, because that's what the European does. It doesn't listen to the democratic wish of the people. Let's not forget, they ignored the referendum in France, they ignored the referendum in Holland, they made the Irish vote again twice over the Nice Treaty and the Lisbon Treaty. This is a big challenge for Brussels, but I suspect they will try to force the Swiss's hand and pick on the smallest boy in the playground.
All right, well, I see Joe there shaking his head during this. So, Joe, do you think this could have any consequences for the EU, perhaps politically speaking?
No, it is this Europhobia from Great Britain that we know since years. This is absolutely wrong. The agreement between the EU and Switzerland was not done by Brussels, but was done by the Swiss government. They even had a referendum 10 years ago on this. They wanted the freedom of movement. They wanted these fundamental rights of all the citizens to move freely. It has nothing to do with a Brussels dictatorship. But if this agreement is now cancelled, of course, it has to be renegotiated. And Switzerland cannot have all. They cannot have access for their goods on the bigger market and restrict the people to come to their country. So there has to be a new deal, and we will see what that gives in the next years.
Paul, let's jump back over to you here. The vote was extremely polarised, in fact, leaving almost a half of the population dissatisfied with the results. Paul, why do you think there's such a divide here?
Well, because that's democracy and, you know, the majority voted in favour. But look, a quarter of people in Switzerland were not born in Switzerland. There were 80,000 migrants last year. It only has a population of 8 million people. Wages are being driven down. It's putting pressure on houses, their healthcare system, on transport. Quite frankly, it's the democratic wish of the Swiss people that they want to control their own borders. And good for them. I wish we could do the same in our own country. I tell you what, let's have a referendum in Britain on the exact same subject about, 4 million people come under the last Labour government to live in this country. That's net. We can't control our own borders. We can't cope anymore. Let's have a referendum in Britain and then let's go back to the table with the European Union, because trust me, the bargaining chip that Britain will have will be far larger than Switzerland, because there's 12 million jobs which are dependent on British trade within the European Union.
Paul, I'm jumping back to Joe here. Joe, I see you once again shaking your head. Switzerland's decision to limit the number of foreign workers, perhaps the latest example of the growing feeling of nationalism. Where do you think this trend could be heading?
Now, I look on Luxembourg. Luxembourg have 35% of foreigners. They live with it very well because Luxembourg is a growing economy, a growing service sector. And you have seen the reaction of Swiss industry today. Swiss industry was upset with this very slight majority because they need the workers. They get qualified workers, not from Africa or Asia. They get it from their neighbor countries, from Italy, from France, from Germany, and they kick in their own knee. And let's see whether this is really the final verdict. And this whole phobia about immigration is just disgusting.
All right, well, Joe, Joe, just to jump in here, I'm sitting here watching both of you. Paul, you're laughing at all of us here. Paul, what's so funny?
The Brits would not do a lot of jobs that have been done by the Polish in your country, and you are just kicking them in the ass when they have done dirty jobs in your country. Let me tell you. Your industry is totally different opinion.
Joe, just a moment.
That's the case.
Order in the court. Where's my hammer?
Hang on.
Joe, come on, Paul. Guys, Paul, you're on.
Hang on. Firstly, let's not use Luxembourg as an example. It's not really a country. It's like a small English town. In fact, there are more people in Liverpool, where I live, than there is in the whole of Luxembourg. Not really a great example. Let's also make one thing clear here as well. Hang fire, Joe. Let's make one thing clear here. We have 1 million young kids in this country, in Britain, 18 to 24, who are unemployed. We've got 2.4 million people who can't get work. It makes no sense whatsoever to saturate your job market even further by having an open-door policy to the whole of the European Union. What we want to see in Britain is we want to control our own borders with a points-based system. If you've got the skills that this country needs, yes, come here and work. What we won't allow to happen is for people to come from Eastern Europe in particular and claim benefits from day one.
Paul,
no, we don't.
You have border control, guys, and most of your people are coming not from the EU, they come from your former empire.
No, we don't.
That's your problem.
You guys in Brussels control. You guys in Brussels control our borders.
All right, listen, guys, I'm going to jump in. Joe and Paul, listen, we all have to play nice in the sandbox. Let's share our toys. Joe, the introduction of quotas for foreigners would arguably create more job opportunities for the Swiss themselves. I mean, that's a good thing, isn't it, Joe?
Of course it would.
Every country should choose their future and have their choice, but we have common rules, and if you are a member of a club, you follow the rules. If you don't want to follow the rules, then you have to leave the club. That's quite simple, and every club it is the same thing.
Well, you know, Paul, I was going to come to you, mate, but we just have no more time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I agree.
You know,
I agree with Joe.
We need more time for this. Paul Nuttall from Liverpool, MEP as well, and Jo Leinen from Brussels. A great pleasure having you both on. I hope to see you both again soon.